Have you ever wondered how football evolved from humble beginnings to the billion-dollar spectacle it is today? Jump ahead to the 1980s, and Joe Montana threw over 3,500 yards in a single season.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone.
Kicking off the pass-heavy era that fans still can't get enough of. Today, the NFL is a global powerhouse, utilizing advanced analytics, helmet sensors, and hosting regular season games in London and Mexico, demonstrating the significant progress the game has made. From muddy fields to massive stadiums, what part of football's journey fascinates you the most? Stay with us as we dive into the NFL's most unforgettable moments, legendary players, and game-changing innovations. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible football stories. 1. The early years, 1920s to 1930s. In the 1920s and 30s, football was a very different game. Scores were low, plays were simple, and conditions were harsh. Fields were often muddy or frozen, and players were not full-time professionals. They had regular jobs. The league was minor. Fans were mostly local, and the style of play relied heavily on running the ball rather than passing. Everything began on August 20th, 1920, with the formation of the American Professional Football Association, APFA. Games kicked off that October, laying the foundation for what would become the NFL. In 1921, Green Bay got its team thanks to Curly Lambeau and John Clare of the Acme Packing Company. Unlike teams like the Minneapolis Marines or Louisville Brecks, the Packers survived and became a cornerstone of the league. By 1922, the APFA officially became the NFL. Clubs met in Cleveland and established the rule that college players were not allowed. The league was maturing rapidly. In 1923, the Canton Bulldogs went undefeated before relocating to Cleveland in 1924 under Samuel Deutsch, where they won the championship as the Cleveland Bulldogs, keeping early NFL drama alive. A major star emerged in 1925 when Harold "Red" Grange joined the Chicago Bears. Grange's fame skyrocketed, highlighted by a 36-yard run in front of 36,000 fans at Wrigley Field on November 26th. His rookie season helped cement football as a serious sport, and he later entered the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In 1926, his agent, C.C. Pyle, launched a rival American Football League to negotiate better contracts. Grange played one season there before returning to the NFL. By 1927, the NFL had reduced its membership to 12 teams, with a focus on major East Coast markets. Grange retired in 1928 after a knee injury, but later returned as a defensive star. In 1929, the league experimented with night football, as the Providence Steamrollers faced the Chicago Cardinals under the lights at Kinsley Park, losing 16-0. However, the experiment paved the way for future night games. George Halas, who would become synonymous with the Bears. Meanwhile, Green Bay won 3 straight titles by 1931. The harsh Chicago winter of 1932 forced the first indoor NFL game at Chicago Stadium. The Bears won 9-0 on an 80-yard field goal. After a controversial pass by Bronco Nagurski, the NFL legalized forward passes from anywhere behind the line of scrimmage in 1933, a small rule with long-term effects. In 1934, icy conditions at the Polo Grounds prompted the New York Giants to wear basketball shoes, which helped them score 27 consecutive points against the Bears, en route to a 30-13 victory. To balance competition, Bert Bell introduced the NFL draft in 1935, allowing the worst teams to pick first and champions last, a process that began at Philadelphia's Ritz-Carlton and would grow into a major media spectacle. By 1936, all teams played the same number of games, with Green Bay finishing 10-1 to claim the championship. In 1937, Sammy Baugh debuted for the Washington Redskins, passing for 1,127 yards and earning first-team All-Pro honors. In 1938, Bill Henry, an editor at the Los Angeles Times, helped organize the first NFL All-Star Game, featuring the champion against a team of league All-Stars at Wrigley Field in Los Angeles. By 1939, NBC broadcast the first televised game, the Brooklyn Dodgers versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Only about 1,000 fans tuned in, and cameras struggled with low light, but the stage was set for how millions would come to experience football in the decades ahead. 2. The Golden Age post-war era, 1940s to 1950s. After World War II, football's popularity soared. The passing game became more prominent. Stadiums expanded, and radio broadcasts brought teams like the Chicago Bears and Cleveland Browns into homes across the nation. In 1940, the Bears demonstrated their dominance by defeating Washington 73-0, using the newly developed T formation. George Halas's strategy, sending a man in motion while keeping the quarterback under center, created an offense Washington could not counter. In 1941, Elmer Layden, one of Notre Dame's legendary Four Horsemen, became the NFL's first commissioner. He was tasked with resolving disputes between players and clubs, helping heal the fragmentation that had plagued professional football in its early years. However, the war had a significant impact on the league. By 1942, many players and coaches, including Halas, had joined the military, forcing some teams to suspend operations temporarily. In 1943, the Philadelphia Eagles and Pittsburgh Steelers merged to form the Steagles in response to player shortages. Despite early conflicts, the team finished 5-4-1, but this merger lasted only a single season. In 1944, Ted Collins launched a Boston-area franchise, the Boston Yanks, playing at Fenway Park. While the name puzzled baseball fans, it marked continued league expansion. When the war ended, the NFL mourned 21 alumni who had died in service, including All-Pro tackle Al Blozis. The post-war era also saw significant progress in racial integration. In 1946, the Los Angeles Rams signed Kenny Washington and Woody Strode, marking a breakthrough in the NFL's long-standing color barrier. Washington scored 9 touchdowns over 3 seasons, while Strode caught 4 passes in his single season. In 1947, the Chicago Cardinals captured their first NFL championship shortly after the death of owner Charles Bidwell, who was later inducted into the Hall of Fame. The league also began emphasizing style and identity. Art major Fred Gurkey painted horns on Rams helmets in 1948, creating a look that became iconic. By 1949, the league reached a new milestone. 2 players rushed for over 1,000 yards in the same season. Steve Van Buren ran for 1,146 yards for the Eagles, and Tony Canadeo tallied 1,052 for the Packers. The 1950 season introduced the Pro Bowl, reinstating the All-Star format after a hiatus caused by World War II. Nationwide TV coverage soon followed, with the Dumont Network broadcasting the NFL Championship game, in which the Rams defeated the Browns 24-17. The single-wing formation, once dominant, gradually gave way to the T formation by 1952, modernizing offenses league-wide. In 1953, the sports world mourned the passing of Jim Thorpe, one of America's earliest athletic legends, renowned for his achievements in the Olympics, Major League Baseball, and football. Records continued to fall in the mid-1950s. Joe Perry of the San Francisco 49ers became the first running back to rush for over 1,000 yards in consecutive seasons, and the NFL experimented with sudden death over time in 1955 during a preseason game between the Giants and Rams. In 1956, Creighton Miller helped organize the first meeting of the NFL Players Association at New York's Waldorf Astoria, giving players a collective voice that would influence labor relations for decades. The late 1950s introduced one of football's greatest stars, Jim Brown, who debuted in 1957. In his second season, he rushed for 1,527 yards and would lead the league in rushing in 8 of his 9 seasons, also establishing himself as a civil rights advocate and actor. In 1958, the Colts and Giants played the greatest game ever played, the first official sudden death overtime game, with Alan Amache scoring the winning touchdown in a 23-17 Colts victory broadcast nationwide. By 1959, Green Bay hired Vince Lombardi as head coach. Lombardi would become one of the NFL's most influential coaches, so revered that the Super Bowl trophy would eventually bear his name. 3. The modernization era, 1960s to 1970s. The 1960s and 70s were a period of modernization and transformative change for the NFL. When businessmen like Lamar Hunt and Bud Adams failed to convince the league to expand, they launched the American Football League, AFL, in 1960. The AFL introduced a faster, more exciting style of play, and although it merged with the NFL in 1970, it set the stage for football's nationwide growth. The Houston Oilers won the league's first championship, giving fans an early taste of the excitement to come. In 1961, Canton, Ohio, was chosen as a site for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, a fitting tribute since the NFL had begun there in 1920. Every summer, the Hall of Fame game and induction ceremony unofficially kick off the season. Yet the decade also brought challenges. The AFL sued the NFL for monopoly practices, though the NFL won, keeping tensions high for years. Gambling scandals also made headlines, notably when Paul Hornung and 6 Detroit Lions players were suspended in 1963, though Hornung later returned to win multiple championships. In 1964, NFL Films was created when the league purchased Ed Sabol's studio. Over the decades, the Sabol family captured groundbreaking footage, including mic'd-up players and coaches, giving fans unprecedented access to the game. League expansion continued, particularly into the South, with Atlanta and Miami receiving franchises in 1965, laying the foundation for future Super Bowl contenders. By 1966, the AFL and NFL agreed to merge and host a World Championship game, which would later become known as the Super Bowl. The first Super Bowl, held in 1967, featured the Green Bay Packers against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Packers dominated 35-10, with quarterback Bart Starr earning MVP honors and players receiving $15,000 each, enough for a car or even a small house. Not every moment was smooth. However, the Heidi game of 1968 saw millions of fans miss a Raiders comeback because NBC cut to air the movie Heidi. In 1969, the New York Jets, led by quarterback Joe Namath, shocked the world by defeating the Baltimore Colts 16-7 in Super Bowl III, giving the AFL its first victory and credibility among NFL teams. Television continued to revolutionize football. In 1970, Monday Night Football debuted on ABC, with legendary broadcasters like Keith Jackson and Howard Cosell bringing the game to life for millions nationwide. The decade featured unforgettable moments. Jim O'Brien's last-second field goal secured a 16-13 Super Bowl V win for the Colts over the Cowboys. At the same time, Franco Harris's immaculate reception in 1972 became one of the most iconic plays in NFL history. In 1973, the Miami Dolphins achieved a perfect season, winning all 14 regular season games and finishing 17-0 after the playoffs. Rules and technology also evolved. In 1974, the goalposts were moved to the back of the end zone, making kicks more difficult and improving safety. Referees began wearing wireless microphones in 1975, allowing fans to hear calls clearly. The NFL even ventured abroad in 1976, hosting its first game outside North America in Tokyo, where the St. Louis Cardinals defeated the San Diego Chargers 20-10. Despite the challenges of jet lag and food. Legendary players also left their mark. Walter Payton rushed for 275 yards in a single game in 1977, setting a record that stood for decades. The regular season expanded to 16 games in 1978, and the Pittsburgh Steelers dominated the era, winning their third Super Bowl of the decade and setting up a fourth the following year. 4. The passing revolution, high-scoring era, 1980s to 1990s. The 1980s and 90s were all about high-octane offenses and the passing game taking center stage. In 1980, the Raiders made headlines by suing the NFL after being blocked from moving to Los Angeles. They eventually won and began playing in LA in 1982. the first of several relocations that would mark their history. Meanwhile, the San Francisco 49ers began building their dynasty in 1981. After a slow start, they surged through the season, winning 12 of their last 13 games, capturing the NFC West, and eventually taking the first of 4 Super Bowls in the decade. Joe Montana emerged as a superstar, throwing for over 3,500 yards and earning his first of 8 Pro Bowl selections. The NFL faced challenges off the field as well. A 57-day players' strike in 1982 shortened the season to 9 games, but it led to higher salaries and better benefits for players. The league even temporarily expanded the playoffs, resulting in Washington's Super Bowl 17 victory over Miami, with John Riggins named MVP. Relocation was also a significant theme. In 1984, the Colts quietly left Baltimore for Indianapolis, leaving behind decades of history, while the Raiders and later other franchises continued moving around. On the field, the Chicago Bears dominated in 1985 with a ferocious defense, immortalized in their playful Super Bowl Shuffle music video, before crushing the New England Patriots 46-10. The NFL also experimented with technology, introducing limited instant replay in 1986, though it wouldn't become fully effective until later. Labor tensions resurfaced in 1987 with another strike, resulting in a few weeks of replacement players. However, the players ultimately secured a free agent system and a salary cap. Officiating milestones included Johnny Greer becoming the first African-American referee in 1988. Later officiating Super Bowl 22 when Doug Williams became the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Super Bowl drama continued to define the era. In 1989, Super Bowl 23 saw Joe Montana lead a game-winning drive for the 49ers, connecting with John Taylor with just 34 seconds left. By 1990, the NFL introduced bye weeks, giving each team a rest during the grueling 16-game schedule. Super Bowl 25 in 1991 became legendary not just for the game, but also for its context, which was played during the Persian Gulf War. The New York Giants edged the Buffalo Bills 20-19 after Scott Norwood missed a last-second field goal, creating one of the tensest finishes in Super Bowl history. The expansion and relocation reshaped the league throughout the 1990s. Carolina and Jacksonville were added in 1993, and the Bills endured heartbreak, losing 4 straight Super Bowls from 1990 to 1994. The Raiders returned to Oakland in 1995, while Baltimore welcomed football back in 1996 with the Ravens, who would later become known for their crushing defenses. The Houston Oilers moved to Tennessee in 1997, eventually becoming the Titans. Redemption finally came for John Elway in 1998, when he led the Denver Broncos to a dramatic victory over the Green Bay Packers, securing his first Super Bowl win after 3 earlier losses. And in 1999, Cleveland fans got their Browns back, keeping their history and identity intact after the team had moved to Baltimore years earlier. 5. The modern era / superstars era, 2000s to 2010s. The 2000s and 2010s were defined by superstar quarterbacks, innovative offenses, and a league that continued to grow into a cultural phenomenon. In 2000, the St. Louis Rams captured attention with The Greatest Show on Turf, led by Kurt Warner, a former Arena League quarterback. Warner, alongside Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, and Torrey Holt, dazzled fans with a high-powered offense. Still, it was the Rams' defense that sealed their Super Bowl 34 victory by stopping the Tennessee Titans just 1 yard short of a game-tying touchdown. In 2001, the NFL paused after the September 11th attacks, with teams like the Giants and Jets contributing to relief efforts, marking how football intersected with the nation's resilience. Expansion continued with the Houston Texans' debut in 2002, making them the league's 32nd franchise. That same decade saw franchises like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finally breaking through. In 2003, under coach John Gruden, and with a dominant defense featuring Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp, the Bucs claimed their first Super Bowl, a matchup often dubbed the Gruden Bowl, against Gruden's former Raiders. On the field, rules began evolving to protect players, especially quarterbacks and receivers, while also cracking down on excessive celebrations, earning the league the nickname No Fun League in 2006. The decade also brought unforgettable highs and lows. The New England Patriots made history in 2007 by going 16-0 in the regular season, only to be stunned by the New York Giants in Super Bowl 42. Conversely, the 2008 Detroit Lions endured a winless 0-16 season, a low point in the franchise's history. The Saints and Colts dominated in 2009, setting up a highly anticipated Super Bowl 44 showdown, where Drew Brees and the Saints finally overcame Peyton Manning's Colts in Miami. Television and rule changes further shaped the game. Week 17 of the NFL season was made entirely divisional in 2010 to heighten playoff drama. Quarterbacks dominated the headlines in 2011, with Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, and Aaron Rodgers posting historic numbers, solidifying the NFL's reputation as a pass-heavy league. In 2012, the sudden death overtime rule was replaced, ensuring both teams a fair chance to score in tied games. Dramatic Super Bowls continued, including a 2013 blackout during Super Bowl 47, which delayed play for 34 minutes as the 49ers mounted a comeback against the Ravens. Cold weather Super Bowls, controversial calls, and historic comebacks kept fans engaged throughout the decade. Super Bowl 48 in 2014 saw the Seattle Seahawks dominate the Denver Broncos 43-8 outdoors, while the following year, Pete Carroll's infamous call in Super Bowl 49 allowed the Patriots to cement their dynasty. Peyton Manning retired in 2016 after leading the Broncos to Super Bowl 50, finishing his career with 2 rings and 5 MVP awards. In 2017, the Patriots staged a historic comeback from a 28-3 deficit to defeat the Falcons in Super Bowl LI, the first Super Bowl to go into overtime. Social issues also became part of the conversation, as seen in 2018 when players' national anthem protests prompted new league policies. In 2019, a controversial non-call in the playoffs involving the Rams and Saints led the NFL to reconsider replay rules for pass interference, demonstrating that the league continued to evolve both on and off the field. 6. The current era, 2020s to present. The 2020s have ushered in a faster, more dynamic NFL, characterized by quick passing offenses, innovative play designs, and a renewed emphasis on player safety. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 dramatically altered the league, with the draft held remotely, preseason games canceled, and players given the option to opt out for health or personal reasons. Stadiums looked unusual, often filled with cardboard cutouts, while fans followed the action from home in near silence. Despite these challenges, the season continued, culminating in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' defeat of the Kansas City Chiefs in a socially distanced Super Bowl, the least attended in NFL history. Off the field, the league has continued to modernize. Technology such as instant replay, advanced analytics, and helmet sensors is now central to game planning and player safety. The NFL has also expanded its international presence, hosting regular season games in London, Mexico, and exploring other countries. These developments demonstrate that the league is not only evolving in terms of gameplay and safety, but also expanding as a global entertainment phenomenon. And that's a wrap. We've seen football grow from rough, muddy fields to massive stadiums packed with fans around the world. Every era brought game-changing rules, unforgettable stars, and bold expansions that shaped the NFL we know today. Off the field, advances in media, technology, and player safety push the league forward. The NFL isn't just a sport. It's a global phenomenon that continues to surprise and thrill fans everywhere. So, which era of the NFL would you have loved to watch live? The grit and grind of the early years, the high-flying excitement of the passing revolution, or the superstar-driven modern era? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe for more legendary NFL stories and behind-the-scenes insights.